Hello and welcome to my third Pitt 2022 position previews. This one is for wide receivers, but if you haven't yet, make sure to go check out both the quarterbacks and the running backs previews up on our YouTube channel. Same one you're watching the video on right now. And also, if you haven't seen Alex's Steelers quarterback preview, make sure to go check that out. He did a great job with that, and he'll have more coming with the Steelers in a bit. So get ready to watch those as well. We are creeping up the football season just above 30 days. Training camp is starting soon for Pitt. It's already started for the Steelers. Report day was today for Pitt football, so it is getting close to the backyard brawl. And so we're going to be pushing out these videos as fast as possible. We got wide receivers next, or wide receivers now, tight ends next, and we can't wait to keep bringing you guys content. Make sure to go listen to all our podcasts too for everything else Pittsburgh sports as well. The Penguins, the Pirates, Steelers, anything, just go check out that. Make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram, as well as subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay updated with all the latest videos and uploads from Steel City Sports Talk. Without further ado, let's jump right in. And I'm going to be going through these wide receivers in the order which I think they'll appear on the depth chart. And that's going to start off with Mr. Reliable, Jared Wayne. What a season he had last year, making a big jump with over 300 more yards than he had in the 2020 season. He took another big leap, and he is going to be primed for another big leap this next season as well. He's always been that number 2 and number 3 guy, but I think this year he can take a stranglehold on the number 1, really take that leadership role, the lead role, and he's going to have a big year. I think he's going to creep up to 1,000 yards receiving this year. I mean, he is a great run after the catch. He's a big body. He's 6'3", and he is fast as well, and he can just ram guys. I mean, he doesn't look like he's fast, but once he gets moving, he can ramble down the field, and he's a big yards after catch guy, and I think that's going to be a lot of what Frank Signetti, the offensive coordinator for Pitt, is going to play into a lot, is get him room in the field to make not so as much to make guys miss, but to run people over and get those yards after the catch. Last year, he had 47 receptions, 658 yards, averaged 14 yards per catch with 6 touchdowns. So he doesn't have the touchdown numbers that you might want to see, but I think, again, that was because of Jordan Addison taking all those last year for Pitt. But I think he's going to have another improved season. I say around probably 800 yards receiving, maybe more, and I think hopefully he gets up to 8 or 9 touchdowns. He'll be the number 1 receiver, unless next guy I'm going to talk about takes a spot as well. But another quick note about Jared Wayne, he had a passing touchdown last year on a trick play against Tennessee to Lucas Kroll. And so maybe we'll see another passing play for Jared Wayne. Who knows? Maybe we'll get another touchdown for him. And I'd say, lastly, one last note on him, I think he's one of Pitt's most important players next year. Obviously, you're going to be losing Jordan Addison, so you're going to need somebody to take that lead role, take that number 1 spot. And I think Mr. Reliable, Jared Wayne, you'll never see him drop a ball. Very rarely. You try to find me a clip where he drops a ball. I think maybe one in the spring game. That's obviously a spring game. Try to find me a regular season game where he's dropped a ball. There's not very many. And I think he's going to take that number 1 role, and he's going to run with it. And I think it'll be another big season for the guy from Canada, Jared Wayne. Next, Akron Transfer, freshman All-American, Kanata Mumfield. This is the most intriguing and probably the player that I'm most excited about next year for Pitt. He was one of the most sought-after wide receiver transfers. He came from Akron. He was a freshman All-American. An amazing year. He had 63 receptions, 751 yards, and 8 touchdowns, averaged 11.9 yards per catch. And this wasn't a good Akron team. This wasn't an Akron team that had a great quarterback either. So to be able to put those numbers playing on a team that's not very great is definitely impressive as a true freshman as well, which makes it even more impressive. And I think a lot of people are pointing to him as maybe he could take that number 1 role. I think that's Jared Wayne's, and I don't see that changing. But I think Kanata he definitely will be the number 2 guy. And I think if he plays well, maybe we'll see him creep up there at number 1. But I think he's definitely going to be a big passing option for either Keaton Slovis or Nick Patty. And I think Pitt fans should be very pumped to see what he has in store, because he's playing with it now with these weapons. He's not to be the number 1 guy. I mean, last year he was the number 1 guy. Everybody's covering him, and he's still able to put up 751 yards, 8 touchdowns. Now he doesn't have to be the number 1 guy. He's playing with ACC caliber quarterbacks. I think he's going to take a big leap, and I think he's going to put up similar numbers, maybe even better numbers to last year that he did in Akron. Well, I'm excited for Jalen Barton, who's the next guy I'm going to talk about. Last year, his season got shortened due to injury, but he showed some potential in his sophomore season. He returned punts, returned kicks. His season, unfortunately, got cut short due to injury, but I think he's going to be able to bounce back from that this year and hopefully take that next. In his sophomore season, he had 9 receptions, 174 yards for an average of 19.3 yards per catch and 2 touchdowns. So it's obviously a small sample size because he got injured, but I think he has shown that he has potential. Obviously, they trust him in his catching abilities and putting back there, returning kickoffs, returning punts. And I think the one play that really showed me that he could be a top guy and a big contributor for Pitt this year is that touchdown catch he had against Miami in the red zone. That was an unbelievable leaping 2-hand grab, falling down to the ground. It was just an incredible catch. And I right there, I said this guy could be a star. And I think if he took time over the offseason to develop, maybe a little bit more time this year. Maybe this year's not going to be his breakout year. I think it'll be a good year for him, but I think he'll definitely have that breakout soon. And I think he definitely has potential to be a great player. Obviously, it'll be his junior year. So he's got time after this year as well to develop. But I think this year he could take a leap forward, not just step, but a leap forward. I think he could be a big contributor for the Pitt wide receiver groups this year. He doesn't need to. He honestly doesn't need to. There's so many weapons, but I think it would be big for Pitt if he took a step forward because there's other weapons, other guys behind him that if he doesn't, they're going to. And so for him, it's important for him to have a big year. And I think if he does, that can really, really help boost Pitt to the next level this year, offensively. And all these guys, I mean, I think they're a little ticked off that Addison left. And they might think, hey, Addison does not define this receiving core. We are going to define it. We are going to have just as good of a season offensively as Pitt did last year. We're going to put up the same type of numbers that he did. Maybe not one single guy's going to do that. Maybe as the group, they're going to put up similar numbers to what the wide receiver course this year. And I think they're going to show that it wasn't Jordan Addison. It wasn't just Jordan Addison. Obviously, he played a big part. But it was us too. And we're going to show that this year by putting up numbers similar to what he put up the year before. And that fourth guy I'm going to talk about, Jaden Bradley. And he really excites me. Maybe this year he won't be as big as a contributor on offense, but I think he's definitely going to take another step forward. 6'3", was a true freshman last year. It was obviously another small sample size with only, I think it was 6 or 9 receptions, 129 yards. The same amount of receptions as Barton. But he really excites me as a red zone and downfield option. He's 6'3", and I'm looking through these receivers. A lot of it is height. You got Jalen Barton, obviously, is height. He's 5'11", but Kenan Monfield 6'1", Jared Wayne 6'3", Jane Bradley 6'3". Jared Wayne's that big strength guy. Bradley's more of the speedster who you could put on the outside as a downfield option and a red zone threat as well. Obviously, as I said, it's a small sample size. He had 9 receptions, 129 yards last year, but with his speed, has pure athleticism, and I think getting over, I guess, that hump of nerves, obviously playing Division I ball, and I think with the right training by Coach Tequan Underwood, he could take a step forward this year, and hopefully he does take that step forward, and he could keep moving up on the receiving depth, maybe become a wide receiver 3 beyond the year, maybe jump over Barton. So anything's possible, and I think he has the athleticism and the size to be able to be a big downfield or red zone threat for Pitt next year. Next guy is honestly might even be not as exciting as a transfer as Mumfield was, but I think it might be a little bit more interesting to see what he shows. He's had a journey. This will be his fourth year in college, his third year playing, 2019. He committed as a 3-star to Tennessee. He didn't play that year. He decided to transfer. He had to sit out in 2020 due to they didn't have the automatic transfer where you could transfer wherever you wanted right away without having to sit out a year. So he had to sit out 2020. He transferred to Louisiana Tech. So obviously going from Tennessee to Louisiana Tech is a big drop-off. But he did have a decent year last year in his, I guess you could say, first year playing. Or it is his first year playing, not his first year on a team. He had 22 receptions, 430 yards, and 2 touchdowns. But Coach Tequan Underwood, this was his first guy that he really went after in the transfer portal. Brennan Marion kind of went after Mumfield. Of course, Underwood went after him as well hard. But I think that Bub Means was that guy who really Coach Underwood had an eye on, Coach Signetti had an eye on, and definitely think he had potential. Coach Narduzzi spoke highly of him as well. Of course, they got another waiver for him because you only get that automatic year right when it's your first year transferring, but he didn't have – it was his second time transferring, but he didn't get that automatic waiver his first time transferring, so they applied to get a waiver for him to play right away for Pitt, and it was granted. Narduzzi seemed pumped about that, so that's what really excites me. He said he's a special player, and I think Bub Means could take a step forward. Who knows? I have him at number 5 on the depth chart, but that's because it's kind of unknown. I mean, he's coming from Louisiana Tech. He's not like Mumfield, put up 800 yards his freshman year and showed that he is already, I guess, made his mark or already proved most of what he can do. I think Bub Means still has a lot to prove, but I think his ceiling is very high, and he is fast, and he is a deep ball threat. He had a couple long touchdowns last year. He had 2 touchdowns. Both of them were very long touchdowns. He had a 79-yard reception last year, so he's obviously got the speed. He's another tall guy, 6'2", and he's big. He's 215 pounds, so he's got that muscle to run guys over, kind of like Jared Wayne does. And I think he could be a big deep ball threat, and I think he could contribute. This is exciting about this roster. There's a lot of intriguing and guys that could really take a step forward. You don't see many spots you're like, there's no one that's really gonna that spot doesn't have good depth. Maybe linebacker, but looking at all these positions, they all have good depth and guys that could really take big leaps in their third, second, whatever it is, years of college. And I think that Bub Means is one of those guys, and I think he could really develop for Pitt next year. There's 3 more receivers I'm going to go over. These guys probably won't get much playing time. One of them will, Miles Alliston, who we'll go over now. But there's also guys you can really get names you want to remember for the future who will be big contributors in 2023, 2024. The first guy who maybe contribute a little bit this year after number 6 on the depth chart, Miles Alliston. He's a redshirt freshman. He was a 3-star in the 2021 class. But he was impressive last year in training camp. Coaches said players that left, graduate or went to the NFL said that he's a guy who could really shock people. And I think just by hearing that, I trust what the staff says. They don't say things that aren't true, hopefully, and that Miles Alliston is a guy who could continue to develop and continue to get better and be a big impact player for Pitt in the future. So that's one guy to keep an eye on for next year. The next 2 guys aren't necessarily guys to keep an eye on for next year, but definitely in the future you want to know their names. First one is Chi Nwabuku. He, no doubt, is now the fastest player on Pitt's roster. He won 3 gold medals at states in Texas, at a huge state. I mean, don't get many Pitt recruits from Texas, but he's one of them. He was a 4-star in the class of 2022. He won 3 track and field gold medals at states of Texas, as I said before, with a time at 10.17 in the 100-meter dash, which was a school record for him. So he's got the speed. He's the guy who's going to return punts and kicks in the future for Pitt, and he's going to be a big option in the running game as well. He's not a running back, but I think in jet sweeps, he could definitely be an option there in the future. Most likely not next year, but who knows? Maybe Narduzzi will put him in. You never know what Narduzzi does. He lets you earn your reps, but he does like the redshirt guys to get that extra year. But he could still play 4 games to get the redshirt, so maybe we'll see a little bit of him next year. Who knows? Final guy, Addison Copeland, who was a 3-star from who's a freshman from Buffalo, New York. He came in with Chi Nwabuku, and I think he obviously won't get much of a shot this year, but in the future, I think he's definitely a guy to keep an eye on. His coaches are very high on him, bringing him in, so I just thought I'd throw his name in there. Maybe he'll recognize his name. It's 2023, and maybe he'll take a Jordan Addison type leap. Who knows? Anything's possible, and that is what is great about college sports. No matter what star you are, you can be a star. Didn't mean to repeat that word there, but it's true. I mean, Aaron Donald was a 2-star. James Conner was a 2-star. Guys can come out of nowhere. That's what's exciting about college sports, because you just don't know what's going to happen. And you don't know what's going to happen in rivalry games. And that's coming up in just over 30 days. The Backyard Brawl will be back September 1st. College Game Day will be there. We are so pumped for it. And that's how we're going to be bringing out more and more videos just like this. Tight ends will be coming out in a matter of days. And after that, we'll probably do linemen. And then we're getting to the defensive side of the ball. And that's just as exciting, especially because a lot of people, I guess, don't know as much about the defensive side. The defensive side, it might even be stronger than the offensive side of the ball. So that's going to be a lot of fun to go over, and we hope you watch all those. Make sure to subscribe, like our videos, turn on notifications to be notified every time that Steel City Sports uploads a video. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram. Well, this ends our video. Thank you for watching today, and make sure to stay tuned and up to date with everything Steel City Sports Talk. And we are your home for everything Pittsburgh sports.